Hello and welcome to Ever Felt Like This, a podcast described as slightly less painful than the Gimpy by Australian Podcast Quarterly. My name is Gabriel Twist.
I am Amber Twist.
And today's episode of Round the Twist was The Ice-Cream Man Cometh. Which,
don't
considering
like the word cometh.
I know, considering the way it started could have, it's good that this was a kid's show.
Is it? I guess, yeah.
Because there are a lot of ways this could have gone differently.
The opening was concerning.
Oh, yeah, no, I did not like the opening one fucking bit.
Because it has a table with, like, an ice cream tub and, like, some scoops and messy, and it's, like, got cones and
people
stuff.
People have been doling out some ice cream.
And it's
Linda's
hands over to Linda, licking a cone.
And there's just what I could describe as, like, Daffy Duck laughter. Like, you know when he went nuts and would leap around?
It's maniacal.
Yeah, but it had that high-pitched, like, Looney Tunes tone to it, which is not... I don't want to hear that ever unless Looney Tunes is on.
Especially not when you're just enjoying an ice cream cone.
Seemingly alone.
And she gets a bit weirded out, and she's looking around to try to find the laughter, and then it just pans down to the cone, and it has a face.
And the face is laughing. It's the face laughing like that. Because it's being licked. is the thing. That's the problem. Like, I mean, it's just as well the face was on the front, because they could have made the face show up on the other side, and like she doesn't see it, but then she's licking the ice cream's butthole.
I don't like that. That's even worse.
So yeah, it's called the Ice-Cream Man Cometh.
Ice-Cream Man Cometh in what can only be described as, you know, when you look up like cool winter font.
Yeah, so much of the bits and pieces, like just the fonts and stuff, and like all that like background shit in this really does just scream like the stuff you'd get free with like Windows Movie Maker and shit.
Or like, you know, you'd buy a PC magazine and it'd have a disc with 500 free fonts. Because those used to be popular.
It's still like people still make and sell fonts, and it's not. Some of them aren't cheap.
No,
and I think that's insane.
It's crazy.
Because like, I've never looked at one of these fonts and been like, "Hey, I'll pay for that."
No.
Let alone like hundreds of dollars sometimes.
God no. So it opens up on. Apparently, Gribble has an ice creamery now.
Yeah, I mean that's the nice thing about having like, you know, the characters reasonably established is you can just go, yeah, Gribble's got an ice creamery. That feels like some bullshit he'd do. Like,
yeah,
and it's called All Natural.
Gribble's All Natural Creamery. Ugh. And Linda's working there.
Yeah, gotten herself a job.
And she's waiting tables, and people seem to be a bit upset that it's taken a while.
It's busy.
She goes in, and Gribble's there, Matron's there, and the three bullies are also working there.
Yeah, well, they've all got aprons on, but they're not doing anything.
They're not doing anything. And Linda seems to be the only one doing anything.
Yeah. And, like, Gribble and Matron are just delighted at how much cash this place is pulling in.
Yeah.
Because it's a new thing, which is pretty much all these, like, seaside towns have going for them.
And, like, Gribble's like, can you do something about your dad? He's bad for business. Because Tony's just sitting there wistfully looking at a photo of Faye.
Yeah, he's like dead center of the fucking pleasant new seaside ice creamery, like just loudly pouting over Faye. And in a step that I just found really infuriating, confused as to why Faye had left him.
Yeah, because like Linda comes up and she's like, why? Why? I just wonder why she left. And it's like, you know this.
Yeah, we
established this in the last episode. Linda told you it was the book, and you were like, oh.
The book.
And you understood.
Yeah, and now that information seems to have vanished from his brain. And he even says it's like some kind of magic spell. And all of that would be okay dialogue if he didn't know about the fucking magic poetry book. But yes, last fucking episode, we established that he knows about the magic poetry book.
We established this.
Fucking coordinate your shit.
So he leaves.
You need a showrunner.
Nell comes in to complain that the ice cream tastes like plastic.
Yeah.
To which, like, Gribble, like, perks up and he's like, you know, Linda, go get some cones out the back. And then he's like, you know, all our ice cream's made natural. Yeah. Isn't that right, Dad?
And he's like, yes.
And Linda's out the back and sees, like, cockroaches. And this place looks filthy.
It's feral, yeah.
Ugh. And all the ingredients a fake.
Yeah, there's like all this like, mango, artificial mango, and then something called Orange Agent, which did make me chuckle.
Yeah, because isn't Agent Orange, isn't that like
Oh yeah, it's
thing that killed people?
It's what's called a defoliant.
Ooh.
Yeah, so when Vietnam was bravely defending itself from American imperialism, the Americans got annoyed with the fact that they were like doing that and thought it was cheating. And so in order to find them, they, rather than like, I don't know, think of anything else, they just dumped tons of this shit onto forests, which stripped the forests bare and also, made sure that there'd be birth defects for generations to come.
Lovely.
Yeah, so that's Agent Orange.
Um,
And so, Linda calls Gribble onto his, quote, all-natural, end quote, ice creamery.
to which he's like, I'll have to bite the bullet and do the only, respectable, honorable thing.
Yeah, he was really contrite, but then...
And he fires her straight away.
Yep.
And Pete's like, I can't believe he fired you.
Yeah, lamenting, Linda's planning to, like, do something about it, but doesn't really have much.
And then a guy rocks up in a trailer. Like a caravan, like a gypsy caravan.
Yeah, it's like... He's some kind of, like... It's funny, because in Australia, looking at guys, he's some kind of, like, gypsy, but he's clearly Italian.
Yeah.
And later he complains about gypsies. Which is just, like, that's that like, European racism that goes back, like, 1,000 years and involves ethnic groups you've never heard of.
So he's got a mobile gelato business.
Yeah.
And he's asking if
Paulo's Mobile Gelato.
he asks like if anyone needs a job. And Linda's like, yeah. So they go into business.
And set up in the park opposite.
Which is really funny.
Like right within eyesight,
And so they're looking to do some good business, and Gribble's peering out the window. He's not happy.
Because the gelati is apparently very good.
Yeah. So he comes over and to introduce himself and to be like, I'm the mayor, basically. What are you doing here? Do you have the paperwork? You need to be here.
Yeah. And he's trying to, like, strong arm the fucking thick accented immigrant with, the sorts of bureaucratic red tape that they, will put in place as a means. It's like when Australia had the White Australia policy.
Yeah.
And they would give you, like, language tests, but it could be in any European language. So, like, you could speak English, but they'd give you a test in French.
Jesus.
I know. So it's kind of like that.
Yeah, but Paulo has all the papers.
Yeah.
To which Gribble's like, just goes, oh, okay, and leaves because, like, he can't do anything.
Yeah, he tried... He played his hand, and the problem with, like, that hand is once it's played, you're kind of stuck with it.
Yeah. While this is all happening, Linda goes in the back looking for a sponge. I don't know why she needs a sponge to clean something, I guess.
Wipe the Gribble off, I think, is just,
And she hears a humming of the Greensleeves tune.
Yeah.
And there's a...
We all know there can only be one thing.
There's a locked door.
Yeah. Like one of those cold room doors.
Yeah. And... So she's like, is someone in there? To which we hear a voice go, Paulo, is that you? You sound different. She's like, no, I'm Linda. Who are you? I'm Giorgio. She's like, okay.
And like, when it's after this little exchange, it cuts to like what we can, only understand as Giorgio, right? There's this shot of like the single strip of white light across two kind of weirdly open eyes and very pale skin.
Yeah.
Of, the entity living in the fucking trailer's, cold room.
And so they asked Giorgio.
And then, so like Linda's like, trying to work out what's going on here. And, she's like, have you ever been out of the box?
She's like, how long have you been there? And he goes, well, today's Saturday. So that means my whole life.
Well, and that's a solid line,
That's a solid line. Yeah. He's like, I'm not allowed to go outside because Paulo says it's dangerous for a human ice cream maker to go outside. One time I saw the big blue thing. She's like, oh, that's the sky.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it's called.
Yeah, the sky.
So Linda vows to break Giorgio out to free him from Paulo because she thinks he's enslaved this
Poor child
to make ice cream. And meanwhile, Gribble's scheming. Matron's like, I know that look. You're
scheming.
He's like, If you can't beat them, steal their recipes.
I know, like he had the the line over there is just like as he sends the bullies over to basically I don't know somehow steal Paula's
He tells
recipe.
them to go undercover.
Yeah, and like the funny part is like there's reasons for it and it's fair, but also like we never find out what that plan was going to be.
No,
Which I do find funny. But like yeah, he's just like okay, yeah, it's the the foundation of capitalism.
because
Sweet,
the next, yeah,
sweet industrial espionage.
because the next part is Bronson peering out from behind a tree with binoculars,
And he's in his camos.
and Pete and Linda are there.
Solid Bronson. Solid Bronson.
Oh, I don't want to see liquid Bronson.
We see that at the end.
So they're planning to break into the caravan and free Giorgio, and Paulo takes the horse off for its daily drink. So that's the perfect time.
They sync watches because Mickey's hand is on the 6. And like so, this is like Linda just walks into the fucking trailer.
Yeah,
None of this is like what we might call a fucking stunning
none of
operation.
it's needed. And so they break Giorgio out, who steps outside and he's huge.
Yeah, he's like this really tall, pale kid with like a strange bowl cut and the exact kind of, jacket and hoodie that is held together with just straps of rope. It really looks like something that like fucking Frankenstein's monster would wear when it first breaks out of the... just like throw a rag over itself and some rope tied to it because it vaguely remembers clothes. And he's obviously a bit strange. And so the plan... Even though they've successfully broken in and liberated the ice cream child with zero resistance, like didn't even have to unlock anything. Like everything was just unlocked.
Everything was on.
Paulo starts walking back, and so everything goes to shit. Like the 3 children just start panicking
like,
immediately.
Paulo's come back. He looks angry.
Yeah,
I was like, what?
he doesn't even look
He
angry.
doesn't look angry.
No.
So Linda just starts freaking out.
Yeah, there's
and
3.
starts yelling at him
Yeah.
to like run. She's like, run, Giorgio, run. And he's like having a panic attack because
Yeah.
he's
doesn't-
never even been outside.
Yeah.
So he's freaking out and just...
I mean, if you've never been outside, I don't think you'd know what run is.
No.
Like, we would just run in the box.
So he just runs through the caravan.
Yeah.
Straight outside of the wall.
Just busts a Giorgio silhouette straight
Yeah.
in the side of the goddamn thing and goes sprinting off into the goddamn, suburbs.
They follow him, and Paula comes and like looks in the caravan, sees the hole. He's like,
Yeah, he's-
Giorgio!
Yeah, and then meanwhile, Giorgio's stopped at a wheelie bin. And
Yeah, he
is
stops
like,
and looks at all this trash. He's
and
like,
he's-
it's so pretty.
Yeah, he's delighted to be looking at, like, the world.
And at this point, the bullies are kind of just idly doing stuff,
They're stealing a no-through road sign off of a tree.
which is
And I'm
weird.
just like, yeah, like, because I get that, there was some kind of plan. And we just don't know what it was. And it's perfectly acceptable within the way the narrative's structured that we don't find out.
And then they're like, it's time for some espionage. And it's like, wasn't that what you were supposed to be doing
Maybe
in
not.
the first place?
Maybe that was just Gribble time.
Maybe.
Maybe because I figured they'd like, I don't know, the goal was to like put that up and then, divert the trailer and then like,
I think they're just causing general mischief.
I mean, possibly.
Paulo's chasing them, trying to find Giorgio. He's just kind of running around.
Yeah, they're managing to like shepherd Giorgio into the lighthouse.
They get him to the lighthouse, to which he exclaims, it's great, the place is great. It looks like a giant upside down ice cream cone.
Both his legs move like each one is an individual ferret.
Yeah.
Like he's one of those gangly dudes who just has like comedy length limbs. And he does know how to work that to his advantage in terms of his performance as Giorgio, which I do appreciate.
And the kids are like, you gotta be quiet. If Dad knows you're here, like, he'd kill us. And to
Meanwhile,
which he bangs straight into a thing and makes a clatter of noise. And they're like, oh no, And then we just hear, oh, Tony. Rewind.
Yeah.
Tony, and Tony's sitting in front of the TV rewinding the video of Faye over and over again. Giorgio goes straight up to him and goes, hi, I'm Giorgio. You want ice cream?
which, if you were a parent and that happened, that would at least warrant attention.
Yeah.
Like, who's this?
Strange
Because,
ice
yeah.
cream galoot in my house.
If nothing else, that is too much energy.
Yeah.
Like if because they are just regular kids with that level of energy, and you have to keep an eye on them because they're like a super high bounce ball that is going to knock something over, which Giorgio already has. But yeah, Tony's just there rewinding Faye because and then like Pete looks at him and just has to see his dad like this, and it's just like, oh, good thing you're holding it together. It's like, yeah, Pete, you know, if things keep up like this, you're gonna be the man of the house soon.
So they take him to the room, and he's like, yeah, no, who's for ice cream then? And Linda's like, you know, you don't have to make ice cream anymore. You don't have to make ice cream ever again.
Yeah, she's trying to explain to him, that he's free now, and he doesn't seem to register that very much.
Bronson's like, you know, I'd like a choc top. And Giorgio gets really excited, walks over and takes a chocolate bar, starts eating it, and then proceeds to excrete the ice cream from his nose.
Yep.
The Gribbles are outside in a tree. I don't know what tree is big enough. I've never seen a tree beside the lighthouse.
Yeah, like I'll let them have this. This can be the rubber band stretch because like the bullies have been shown like as this was going on climbing up a tree outside. You know, Gribble Jr.'s got the binoculars. They're doing the peeking in the window routine. Is there? I mean, I know that there are trees outside. I don't know. I honestly can't remember how tall they are.
I've never seen one close to the lighthouse that's that tall.
I mean, he's got binoculars. So I feel like for a kid's show, they've covered enough of the bases to go, all right, the bullies are peeking on this somehow.
So they see this, and he says, "Holy sausage rolly," which I have never heard in my life.
That is not that is not a saying. That is not an Australianism. It is one of those like it's an easy effect to do. Like this one is definitely CG because they do the old perspective bit later on in the show, and this one doesn't have the perspective for the trick.
And then he snorts out some fudge afterwards.
Yeah,
to which Bronson tastes it,
and is perfectly delighted.
And he's like,
"It is solidly grotesque."
It is, and Linda's like, "Oh, you're a human ice cream maker."
Yeah, and
she
like
understands what that entails,
what that actually means now. And like, she's still trying to get him to realize that he doesn't have to do this anymore. And he just goes, as long as I have ingredients and someone to eat my gelati, I'm happy.
And you know, fair enough, Burr.
Yeah.
You do you.
Stop trying to liberate the slave boy.
So they try to go to sleep. Giorgio's been put in Pete's room. Pete can't sleep and is just going, shut up, because he's just listing off like perfect ingredients for gelati.
Yeah, like he's
15% emulsifier.
Yeah, his eyes are just bolt open and he's just talking.
So the Pete comes into Bronson. He's like, "It's your turn, Bronson," and then, like,
yeah, dude, that's the best part. Is Giorgio's like because it's a real close shot of fucking Bronson's face, and then you see Pete lean into the frame and just go, "Bronson, it's your turn," and then just Giorgio face comes from the other side, and again he's this weird, gaunt, very pale kid with this bowl cut and just this deranged grin. So that just busting into the fucking frame from the left over, like within like about a centimeter of Bronson's skin. Is funny. And then the best part is that the shit he's relating to Bronson is even more stupid and annoying than
he's listing
ingredients.
Off gelati machines and imitating the sounds they make.
Yeah. Like, at least I could probably fall asleep to someone talking about emulsifier.
Quite easy.
Like, you could tune out to that.
But you can't quite fall asleep to...
Yeah. And again, he's just, like, he's got, like, that really... you really only got him back in, like, the 80s and 90s of, like, the undiagnosed ADHD kids that are just, like, bouncing off the walls constantly.
It looks like he just had 2 cups of red cordial.
Yeah, like that level of just fucking weird, hyperactive little shit. And then so the next day, it's like fucking Pete and Bronson acting like they're hungover, basically, because they've had, like, no sleep.
And Linda's like, "Good morning, I slept well." And they're just like, "Ugh." And they're like... So they've ended up putting Giorgio in the shed.
It's like, let's just put him in the shed.
They were like, what were we supposed to do? And they get into the shed, and obviously he's gone. Paulo shows up on his little cart, and I was like, I've lost Giorgio, he's gone missing, And Linda's quite, sarcastically...
Yeah, because, like, I don't think Paulo really knows that Linda sort of, like, freed him exactly.
No.
And Linda knows that, so she's sort of being snide about how, like, Paulo wants to find Giorgio, but, like, they also don't know where Giorgio is, so they agree to, like, help him.
And then we see that Giorgio has been kidnapped by the bullies who are just leading him around with green sleeves playing on a...
Yeah, on, like, a fucking
boombox.
stereo, yeah. He's just playing green sleeves, and up comes the fucking weird ice cream bowl cut child.
And so they take him to the creamery, and he looks really happy to have found the creamery.
Yeah.
And... Paulo is seen walking with Bronson
yeah.
And he's talking about Giorgio, and Bronson's asking what makes him so different. And Paulo's like, "I've never told anyone this, Bronson." But, he starts, we don't see what he tells him.
Yeah, the audience doesn't find out, but then we cut to, like, Pete and Linda sitting on a bus stop,
Yeah.
like just lamenting that they don't know what's going on, and then up wanders Nell,
Oh, God.
who's really happy with her nose cream, and says that like the Gribble Creamery has gotten a lot better in the past day.
Which is funny because, like, why would you go back there?
It is.
And why would she support Gribble in the first place?
I know, like that's the bigger one to me. I could understand going back if like there's people saying, "Oh yeah, the ice cream's better now," but like she shouldn't. Yeah, like Gribble's her mortal enemy. You know, skinny Nell wouldn't have done this. That's plump Nell's all about the ice cream. She doesn't care about principles.
Fucking the gluttonous, fat, disgusting Nell slurping down her cream.
Gluttano!
And then we see, like, Snapper.
Oh, fuck, I forgot about that. Yeah.
This is the one portion of Snapper in this episode, and I don't know why, but he has become a book writer.
I think he's copying, like, poems out of the fucking Viking book.
He's wrote a poetry book.
Yeah.
And it's like Snapper by Verse or something like that it was called.
God.
So he's selling poetry. That had no reason to be in the episode.
I mean, I get it as being sort of a part of the Tony shit and all that, and it's like it is basically the fucking major plot that they're going with for the rest of this.
But I just felt it had no place being in this episode.
I mean, it didn't. The problem is this episode had a very, very tight focus.
Yes,
and it was also very moment to moment. There wasn't very much like the overnight section was about the only major time shift we got that we didn't see. Otherwise, it's pretty much just like next. Like, okay, next, all right. Like, we're not getting any big gaps in what's going on.
no.
So it's like, it's kind of awkward. And there's to just have, I mean, like, he's in the ice creamery doing a book signing for it. So that's about the way they get, sort of away with it, is by having it part of the pan through. But, like, he's there talking about how he's going to buy a roadster.
It's odd. Like, how many books have you sold, Ralph?
I suppose publishing was stronger back then, pre-digital and shit.
Port Noranda, like, it's not a very big town.
I mean, no, but if he's got like a deal, if the book's getting peddled, the middle-aged women, they'll eat that shit up, and they're basically what's kept publishing going.
Sure. So we get Gribble force-feeding Giorgio all the
Artificial,
crappy, unnatural ingredients, and Giorgio is like struggling with this because he's like, it's unnatural. This isn't how it's supposed to be, and because he's forcing him to make ice cream. So obviously, even though it's unnatural, the ice cream's still better than it was.
Yeah,
because he's a magic ice cream maker.
And this time they're using the perspective bit, so they have like real goo coming out of the side of his nose, sort of thing. And it's solidly done as this blue stuff gets discharged from him,
Ugh.
and then Gribble goes to hand it to some unsuspecting person. And then so, like, fucking, the kids see this peeking through, like, the weird kind of zombie movie, like, wood bits that Gribble has nailed up on his
weird.
fucking... I know, like, any ice cream that looks boarded up is like, that's suspicious. So, like, Pete and Linda bash on it, and Pete pretends to be from, like, the Australian Consumer Affairs Commission.
Which Gribble hits a big button.
Yeah, that just says alarm and then runs off.
It says evacuate.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
In big letters on the wall it says evacuate. It goes, he's like, oh, hold on, I'm just doing something. You can't come in yet, can't come in. And he runs away and then goes, come in. and
he leaves the fucking slave monster there.
tied up, yeah.
Yeah, which I feel like is counterproductive. Yeah, like, I feel like maybe he should have pulled down a curtain or put a box over him or something. There should have been a hiding, but he just runs off.
So they come in and they're like, Giorgio, he's happy to see them. Free him, and then like they're about to walk out, and the Gribble bullies come around the corner. To which Linda throws a table into them.
Yeah,
Giorgio's laughing his ass off. He thinks this is hilarious, and then they push it back, and it just kind of hits Giorgio, and he's like, "Oh," and they're like, "Oh, he's gonna," and then he just throws up. As Gribble and Matron come around the corner too.
Yeah,
and covers them in all the stuff.
The artificial
fed him.
Yeah,
and to which Rabbit goes, "Oh, lime, my favorite," and they all sort of start. Hitting him.
And so, like, Pete, Linda, and Bronson and, fucking Giorgio all laugh and run out. And then they go to the park and, Linda stops, with G and thanks him and then, apologizes for not listening to him, which she's not doing currently. She's like talking
Yeah.
over him as like Giorgio's trying to explain like, you know, something.
And Bronson comes up and he even tries to explain further.
Yeah.
And, you know, Linda's not listening. So she's like, oh, you know, thank you, this is for you. And she like gives him a kiss. And she's like, no, Linda. And then he glows purple. And it cuts to the next scene where she's talking to Paula. She comes up. She's like, you know, I've got good news and bad news.
We
The
found
good news
Giorgio.
is we freed Giorgio from the ice cream slavery. And it's like, excuse me?
That was a good choice of words. I like that.
Excuse me? Because, like, Paula's known nothing. He's known absolutely nothing.
Yeah, he was completely ignorant of even really like much of the Gribble situation at all.
So just to hear from the ice cream slavery.
Oh yeah. Porting around as the hotbed of ice cream slavery in Australia.
You know, we freed him. But, you know, oh, and the bad news is like, oh, I kissed him and he turned into a gelati machine.
Yeah.
And Paula's distraught. He's like, he was like a son to me.
I should have let him out sometimes.
A very big son.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he starts to explain that when he was younger, he wanted to be the best ice cream maker in the world.
Yeah.
But he got impatient and he stole a recipe from a gypsy, as you do. Because gypsies make the best ice cream.
Apparently, yeah.
So she put a spell on his gelati machine.
Yeah.
And it turned him into Giorgio.
Which is an insane, like, what's the basis of that as a curse, lady? Like, what was that? That woman was probably, like, cursed by other old gypsy ladies to, like, suck at curses or something. Because even Paulo says it wasn't that big a problem because, A, he still produces ice cream, and that's it, really. I mean, like, he's kind of annoying, but, like, Paulo treated him like a kid, a son, so it's like, okay.
And, like, yeah. So he's distraught, and Linda's like, well, you know, maybe a kiss can turn it back.
Yeah.
And so, like, Paulo's like, okay, and, like, goes, he's like, he's about to kiss, and she's like, no, I mean me. And he's like, oh, it's worth a try. So she kisses the machine, and it turns purple and turns back to Giorgio. And,
you know, Paulo offers him.
they're
Yeah,
so
he's
happy.
like, he offers him to be a partner now.
Full partner.
Yeah, he gets to ride up front.
And they're like, see, and then they start dancing.
Yeah, I wrote dance in a manner most Italian.
And then they're leaving town. Giorgio's actually on the front of the cart. He's not being locked away.
I said, there goes an amazing appliance.
Then Bronson goes, hey guys, I think I figured it out. And he puts a cone up to his nose and then just spurts vile green goo.
Yeah,
That's a lot of goo.
that was a lot.
That's a lot. I think you're sick, Bronson.
That's more than, yeah. I mean, that was grotesque.
It was.
And then that's the end.
That's the end of the episode.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's another one of those, like, that's a prototypical, you know, round the twist episode. A deranged core concept. But, you know, otherwise the episode was solid. You know, it kept going in, you know, the pacing and...
The pacing and plot were, like, on point.
Yeah, because there was nothing that was just, like, deranged that didn't fit and shouldn't have been in there and took up way too much time or just didn't make a lick of goddamn sense. You know? Like, it was just, yep, what is it? It's a... You know, the twist was that it wasn't like a boy turned into an ice cream machine or some other weird thing like that. It was an ice cream machine turned into a boy.
Yeah.
Which explains why he's not that bright. And
Gypsies.
we all learned a valuable lesson about Italians. I don't know.
Italians are the foes of gypsies.
Natural enemies back in Europe. In Australia, you can't tell them apart, and that upsets both parties. All right. Well, Amber, now here's the grim ordeal. Have you ever felt like this? What is your favorite ice cream?
Oh.
Ever been grossed out by where something you like comes from? Ever had food or drink come out of your nose? And the last wacky one, ever been locked somewhere at work? So, first question, what is your favorite ice cream?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm very partial to butterscotch.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I like butterscotch that has, like, pretty, like, sticky bits in it. Or anything peanut butter flavored. Those two.
Yeah, I can't like go
can't have-
there. Yeah, so like peanut butter, like as a flavor, it's just like an alien concept to me.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, because I'm functionally just unable to taste it. You know, it doesn't taste right to me.
Does a peanut butter flavor exist that has nothing to do with the nuts? Like, for example, I have peanut butter whiskey. Would that have
I'd be willing to bet
nuts in it?
if it were a whiskey, it would probably be like
artificial?
not artificial. I think you can probably just soak fucking peanuts in it.
Oh, okay.
Like that's usually the way you flavor like a fucking liquor is you just get like something. Often you'd start with something neutral and then just pour it over
I see.
like some shit and then the shit's in the booze and it tastes like that. Like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's an artificial thing, but it doesn't. I mean, I don't think I'd enjoy the process just because
That's fair.
I feel like it would just set off too many alarm bells in my brain.
Yeah.
But it's hard to kind of explain in terms of like flavor because there's almost like it almost has a quality of like licking a D battery.
I see.
Because it's just immediately all the inside of my mouth is like inflaming, you know. So like that is kind of like wrapped up with the concept of it as a taste to me. So that it's just like it's like mud that hurts.
Yeah, fair.
You know, like there's just no flavor to it really.
Yeah.
It's not something I ever think, oh boy, well I'd like that if it didn't make me sick. Which is always why it's wild when I see people who have like it's usually like a mild lactose intolerance or something, but people will be like, well, this makes me sick, but I like ice cream. It's like, that's just wild. It's so weird for me to watch. Because it's like, my allergies are like, this,
Oh, yeah.
fucks up my ability to breathe.
Yeah.
Sara Lee strawberries and cream.
Oh, yeah.
That shit is like fucking heroin. I love that stuff. It's very, very, very nice. Very pleasant. You know. That or just a decent chocolate made with like buttermilk.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Preferably that hasn't come out of a strange, gaunt child's nose.
Wow, that might be a tall order.
It's just where all ice cream comes from. You didn't know? Ice cream machine children galloping about. Ever been grossed out by where something you like comes from? Like you ever, really enjoyed a flavor or really enjoyed a thing and then it's been like, ugh.
I don't think so, because, like, everything comes from something.
Yeah.
Because, like, animals are food.
Yeah,
We
like when
eat
I was
so many animals.
like about 3-ish, I didn't want to eat meat anymore when I found out it was like things. Then I was just like, also with my allergies, a vegetarian diet's actually difficult.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I was just like, after a while, I was like, well, stuff eats stuff.
I'm trying to really think hard. I honestly don't think so. Like,
I mean, there are there's
milk.
really.
Yeah, because I didn't like milk as it was.
Okay.
So, like, seeing it come out of, like, cows' teats. Oh, I saw tofu getting made once on, like, a production line, and that made me...
It just doesn't look right.
God, no.
It's a weird...
Oh.
Yeah, it's just
That's
weird.
not coming from an animal, though, but, like, it counts.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't need to come from an animal.
Okay.
It just needs to be grossed out by something,
Yeah,
just
just seeing it
where
being made
comes
on a
from.
production line. I remember we would watch that in Japanese class, and I was just like, oh.
I mean, there's
Ugh.
the production of those, like, not sausages, but, like, the hot dog franks. The real cheap ones.
Yeah.
Like, seeing the weird pink fluff that they get made from is always kind of weird.
Ugh.
Yeah, like, I don't really... I can't eat those
Yeah,
things.
that's fair.
But, like, you just look at it, it's like, it just don't look right, It looks like it should be sweet, and I can't handle that. It's like putting, like, just food coloring in water. Like, it does nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the taste, but I look at it and my brain goes, it shouldn't just taste like water, that's wrong. And I just can't fucking drink it. Have you ever had food or drink come out of your nose?
Yes. Many times. There's always been a time when you go to take a big gulp of something and someone says something so funny and unexpected that you go off and it will go up through the nose. And alcohol and carbonated beverages are the worst for that. God.
I had, like, a bit of bolognese get laughed up in there once. That hurt like shit.
Oh, God.
Like, just one of those tiny, like how mince will sort of, when you cook it into a bolognese, will just be like these little individual balls, sort of.
Yeah.
It was just one of those. And it was Like I could feel it roll up the back and then just
Ugh.
wedge it, just jam up in there, and then having to like fucking snort and make noises and shit. And my brother's fucking pointing and laughing at me, and I'm just like, shut up. And then it burns the nose in ways that you're just not ready for. Because why would you be? Why would you be fucking ready for meat nose? It's just fucking horrible. I mean, I have seen a full solid stream come out of my brother one time. I can't even. It was one of those things where like what made it happen has been completely overshadowed by like the event. You know, like I can't even remember what made him laugh so fucking hard. But it was. I'm pretty sure it was one of those. You know, like those weird Australian lemonades that don't taste like lemon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something like that, and it just did that thing where he tried to stop laughing, but just perfectly shaped the throat and nasal canal into like this fucking rifle, you know, and just straight up and out. And like it's kind of burned my head because it's like the first time, because normally if something comes out, it's usually like a slight dribble, if anything, because it always feels like a lot even when it's not, because again it's your nose. But then this stuff just it came out, and like I mean I've at the time he was like it really hurt, and then like later in life he was just like that really really hurt because it's like really fizzy and just it burns. Have you ever been locked somewhere at work?
No.
I mean, I've seen it happen. Oftentimes, though, it would be like, you know, deliberate workplace bullying. You know, like, because there was like a cold room, but like it wasn't one of those ones that like you could sort of lock it if you wedged the door in a certain, like, or the handle in a certain way.
Gotcha.
So it's not something that you had to worry about occurring sort of just generally. But like, you know, if you wanted to fuck with someone, which would happen from time to time, it'd just be like, out! You're like, what? Can't hear you. And then eventually, you know, you let them out because they frown on murder.
Yeah.
And should technically frown on workplace bullying too.
Yeah.
I don't think. I'm trying to think. I mean, that was the thing. I was so seldom ever in the fucking any other cold rooms or anything like that.
I don't think I've ever worked a place that had a cold room.
I mean, even just, you know. I mean, there was a time, the shitty bottle store I worked at for a little while. Like, it got robbed, and then my shift was, like, the next night.
Yeah.
And they hadn't rebuilt the back door.
Oh.
And so the alarm was going off because there was just, I had no way of, like, because it was automatic, right? The alarm sets at, like, you know, fucking 9, so you can't, like, open the back door after that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, the alarm keeps going off, and so I call, like, the manager, and it's just like, hey, the alarm is just happening. And so I was just, like, kind of stuck in there for a little while until, like, he showed up to, like, deal with it. I was just like, well, you know, just going to sit here and start drinking.
Good Lord.
Yeah, that was the bottle store where when I started, because, you know, I'd done, like, various things, but not, like, you know, those forms of retail. And I asked about it, like, oh, yeah, stock take. So, like, because I'd never done a stock take. I was like, you know, when did those happen? And the friend that was getting me the job just kind of looked at me with this, like, pained expression on his face. And he just goes, yearly. And I sort of, because again, I had zero experience with stock takes. Like, I knew about them as a concept. I knew what they were supposed to do, but I didn't know, you know, enough. Because I sort of thought about it for a second and frowned. I was like, how does that work? And he just goes, it doesn't. Try not to steal too much. Because there was just zero fucking accountability. There was just no fucking way to, like, apparently one of the people working at, like, the other branches of it was just, like, taking money.
Oh.
Yeah, because there was no way to, like, really match up what got moved and what was sold, you know? I mean, I just took a bottle of $5 wine home at the end of shifts, which is, you know, fucking minimal by the other, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you could have been taking $80 bottles of whiskey, you know?
Oh, yeah, no, again, easily. I could, a year.
Yeah, a year. That is
They'd never know it was me, yeah.
You could work there for 6 months.
Yeah. And I did. Like, I was there for, like, basically 6 months. And then
just leave and, like, no.
Yeah, I got no way of knowing.
Got no way of knowing.
Yeah. No, fucking good.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Just, you know, gone through, looked at a few nice things, and gone, I'll take this. But, you know, I always try to do the bad thing the right way.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, Oh boy. Now we have letters from the fans.
The fans.
Hello. Well, I can't match the head basher family. I have a few stories to share. Ever made a big bet? In Britain, it's legal to gamble on elections. I work on political campaigns.
What?
It just feels like a weird thing to gamble on to me, but I'm not. That's the problem. Is I'm not like gamblers are degenerates.
They'll gamble on anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
it's just, all right. I work on political campaigns, so it's the only gambling I feel confident enough in my knowledge to try. In the UK election this year, I put a £1 bet on every single constituency, a total of £650, and came out of it with a net winnings of about £80. After the 2020 US election, after it was already very clear Joe Biden had won, dum-dums thinking Trump could still do it meant the betting website I used still let you get a 5% return on that outcome for several days. I still don't know why they allowed this, but I put a couple of grand out and claimed an essentially free £100. My gambling advice is to spread your bets. Never aim for the big win, be honest with yourself about how much expertise you have, and only be willing to gamble what you are willing to lose.
So, nothing. Gotcha.
Yeah, and that's... The thing is like, yeah, it's like people who take steroids to sort of just work out a little bit. You know, it's like there are healthy, sane ways to do most of these things. But you have to be such a very specific form of autistic to gamble in that way.
Mm.
And what most of you are going to be is degenerates. Ever been caught in a storm? When I lived in Seattle, I was due to fly home to the UK for Christmas, when I heard there was due to be an ice storm on the day I was due to leave. I figured this was a meteorological hyperbole, and that this just might mean a bit of snow. I learned the hard, cold, and slippery way that an ice storm actually means you get freezing rain followed by sub-zero temperatures. This is not the same as fluffy, white, whimsical snow, but instead means the entire outside world is covered in a 5mm film of solid ice. I took a step out of my front door and immediately slipped over on my ass. I then watched as my neighbor's car merrily slid down the hill outside, spinning like a Beyblade.
Whoa.
Probably not tournament legal.
Nah.
I had a flight to catch, and getting to the airport involved getting to the light rail station, usually a 10-minute walk, but crucially up and over a fairly significant hill. No buses were running because of the ice, and if they couldn't manage it, no way was I getting a taxi. I sighed, grabbed the hammer from my toolbox, and began bashing my way to freedom. That's insane.
Yeah.
Like, having to be like fucking Mario with the mallet from goddamn Donkey Kong just to get up the footpath. Because I've never even seen snow. Like, one time the car was covered in a layer of ice, and it was like maybe 1 millimeter thick. And we were like, oh, look at that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I just don't know. I don't know what I'd do if the world were just slippery one day. You know, that kind of makes ice stages make more sense.
It does?
Because it was just bullshit when I was a child.
Yeah.
Just like, this is just nonsense.
Yeah.
And it turns out you can just go outside and you're just running in the spot like a cartoon character. That is fucked. I will admit that when the world is a giant ice sheet, smashing it into large shards is great therapy, and the neighbors seem to appreciate my efforts. Some 2 hours later, I managed to crest the hill, then awkwardly shuffle my way down the other side, falling a few times before, only moderately bruised. I finally caught the flight. Australian weather has its moments, but be grateful you live on a continent where you will never be attacked by Mr. Freeze.
I believe it is coming.
Yeah, I suppose, like, the blizzard, like, snow is one thing, but just... outside's just slippery now. You just have no grip. That is insane. Ever had to do chores? In an old scummy student house, we had a garbage disposal unit in the sink. This was a surprising luxury for us, since few houses in the UK have them at all, and particularly not the kind of hovel you let to 20-year-olds for £300 a month. That is, I do... Because it's rare if ever. Like, have you ever seen a fucking, drain sink thing that eats your garbage? You know, like the...
Garbage disposal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? I've never, like, so much as seen one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Like, they're not common here.
I think my parents had one at one point.
They had to just bought that themselves for their own, like...
Well, it was a house they'd built.
Oh.
So,
right,
yeah.
Because, like, they tell you just not to put stuff down the sink.
Yeah.
And then in America, they were like, well, people are just going to put shit down the sink, so we have to invent a sink monster.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, none of us knew how to take proper care of the garbage disposal and what should and should not be put through it. Yeah, see, I wouldn't know that. I just assume everything goes into the garbage disposal.
Absolutely.
Why? Because it's called a garbage disposal.
Yes. So many things are garbage.
Yeah, like if I'm not going to use it for everything, why don't I just put shit in the bin like a normal person? It finally broke the day after all my housemates left for summer. Our landlady was the kind of scumbag who demanded to be paid in cash and wasn't answering her phone.
Jesus.
That's amazing. And I was far too comically poor to be able to hire a plumber, so it was left for me to fix it. This involved getting shoulder deep in the drains outside of our house and digging through a foot-thick clog of material I can only describe as looking and smelling like if someone made a pot of oatmeal and left it in the sun. It was well beyond the ability of any rubber glove to deal with, and the plunger did nothing. So I sighed, held my breath, and resigned myself to fisting my way through the mulched food until the sink could flow again. Ugh. It took me a couple of days before I felt clean again. That is fucking funny. Sink monster's broken, you gotta fist it. Ugh. I have felt like this. Hello, Amber and Gabe, your friendly neighborhood deck child Mason here with a good mix of stories.
The deck is back.
Just the little red eyes peeking out from under the deck is just burnt into me. I love that because just it turning out that it was optional. You know, like it didn't. Was the door locked? No. Could have gone inside. This is just under the deck. Have you ever had an evil doll story? My father still has his doll that was his grandmother's made for him when he was younger. It has grey skin and wild black hair. But what makes it evil is that she added a penis to the doll.
What?
It has always terrified me and wouldn't go near it in my family's basement. Okay, so the penis doll lives in the family basement, and that's the end of that. That's where that story finishes.
I put a penis on it, then I put it in the basement.
I put a penis on it. Why, Grandma?
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Have you ever lost a huge bet? Well, I am not the gambling type. My brother is. He and his college housemates like to bet on college football, and 2 times he lost big. From the first, he was made to eat crushed peas baby food, and for the second, he had to eat a Carolina Reaper pepper, one of the hottest peppers to eat. I mean, yeah, like, if crushed peas baby food is nothing. That's just some slop. That's at least food. A Carolina Reaper is just a weapon, basically.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a head injury? When I was a baby, my father dropped me, and I hit my head on the side of a table. Another time, I was shopping at Walmart. And an industrial ladder fell on my head. We sued the store and got compensation for that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Could afford to put a little bed under the deck. Keep up the great videos and streams. They brighten up my anxiety-filled head with joy from under my deck. I do.
You should live under there. You should move full time down there.
I love just each of those stories is just a sentence. There's no extra flavor. It's just I got dropped and I hit my head on a coffee table and then a Walmart ladder fell on my head. I've at least got some money out of them.
Yeah.
Okay, remember now, if you got answers to our questions, send them to ihavefeltlikethis@yahoo.com. That's ihavefeltlikethis, all lowercase, @yahoo.com. And this episode's questions are, what is your favorite ice cream? Ever been grossed out by where something you like comes from? Ever had food or drink come out of your nose? And the wacky one, ever been locked somewhere at work? So remember to send your answers to ihavefeltlikethis, all one word, all lowercase, @yahoo.com. And we will laugh about your truly depressing lifestyles from a comfortable little spot here in Brisbane.
You bring us joy, and you bring the world joy, because they know at least they're not a deck child or have inherited a line of head injuries.
Or one of the ice climbers, apparently.
Eh?
I don't even know the ice climber music.
I do. Play a lot of Smash Brothers.
Fair enough. Well, that's today's ice creamy episode. I'm your nasal discharge, Gabriel Twist.
I am, as always, sadly, Amber Twist.
I'll see you again next time.
Good night.